Welcome to State of the Biz. My name is Richie Scola, and I am here with Brian Zacharias and Stephanie Richmond. We are talking today about squatter situations that we're dealing with within our portfolio. Stephanie is our Director of Legal Affairs here internally at HomeSource. So we have a subject matter expert with us today for this conversation. And Brian is the VP of Operations and oversees the property management and project management functions. So got two good people that can give us some good insight into the squatter situation. So Brian and Stephanie, welcome. And I think we'll kick it off with you, Stephanie. If you can talk a little bit about some of the things that we're dealing with as far as squatters go within some of the portfolio markets.
Okay, yeah. Well, we have seen an explosion of squatters in Georgia primarily. I don't think we have any in any of our other markets, but they're primarily in Georgia. It seems that as soon as we get one home in marketing, a squatter takes over. Next to that is a similar problem in Georgia that we're having with the length of time that it's taking to get a resident out via eviction or a squatter as well, and that's sort of left over from COVID, which...
Just to interject there, so Brian, we've been in this business for 12 years, and typically what we'll see is we put a property in marketing, somebody takes that property information, puts it on a Craigslist or a Facebook marketplace, and they go ahead and lease our property to somebody with a fraudulent lease.
Right.
And then it has to be remedied, and that's something that can be challenging and really put a drag on operations. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's back then that was really all we had, but now we're seeing a movement of just people finding an empty home and literally overtaking it. It's crazy, but yeah, those situations that I think the nice thing that we have with kind of the evolution of technology. Identification checks, things like that. So the way we self-tour our homes, we put checks and balances in place. Like you can't stop somebody from breaking in the home. Like at the end of the day, you can lock it up, you can have all that stuff. But really, I think the fraudulent leasing, it still exists, but the biggest problem we have now is just straight up people breaking in and then planting roots in our homes, knowing what they're doing. And in Georgia specifically, it seems like everything's kind of behind there. Like there's so much craziness going on in one way, shape, or form that they're able to go months at a time, and they're just kind of leapfrogging, right, is what it seems like is happening. But yeah, the fraudulent lease thing still exists. But now I think the problem, and Stephanie can speak to this, is I think these people that are doing this, like I'm coming in on my own, I know this home is vacant. Now they kind of know that game too, so they're going to create their own lease and say they're getting scammed. So it's hard to say these days whether they're actually getting scammed or they're saying they're getting scammed, and now I have a lease, so poor me. Like it's a tough thing.
And some of the friction that causes on the front end for operations on the property management side is we're going to move a new resident in, and we find out.
Yeah, there's people in there. Like, so we've actually gone the day of move-in, the day before, right? The day before, and that's the challenge from an operations perspective. Is clearly like we have owners to serve, and it's their money that we're spending on these properties. So there's our money, there's their money. Like it costs a lot of money to try to prevent it, right? So what do you do to prevent it? And that's where I think Stephanie can kind of speak to her thoughts on that. But you're going to have to spend money somewhere. It's either on the front end, and if that doesn't work, now you've spent money on the front end. People get in there, now you have to go through the eviction process. They're going to tear up the home in some way, shape, or form. Now you're kind of returning the home, the expense there, just to do it all over again. So that's where the pickle is it could be a recurring thing that you never get away from. Yeah. So,
or you're hearing more and more about the cash for keys approach, but even that's not foolproof.
Yeah.
You don't know, right?
Well,
they're
and
not
waiting for the next ball to drop.
Yeah, because they're living for free.
Right.
Yeah.
So
some of these municipalities and jurisdictions are not quick to move on some of this, so that bottlenecks. So they know. Typically, they'll know.
I'm curious
I could squat here for months.
So I'm curious from Stephanie's perspective, kind of in her legal world, kind of what you're hearing and what possible resolutions there are to mitigate.
Right now, there's I've practiced in Georgia doing evictions in the past, in North Carolina also. I've never seen anything like what we're seeing post-COVID, really. especially in the Atlanta metro area. With the squatters, you do have two remedies available to you. One is eviction. You can file an eviction. Some counties are going to be much faster than others, as we know. You can get your case to hearing, and then when it comes to file the writ, that's what's taking, I mean, in some cases up to close to a year. And it seems, unfortunately, that these squatters kind of already know which counties to hit. You know, they know where their sweet spot is. Another remedy that landlords have available is the intruder affidavit, and it is statutory, so it's in the Georgia code. It's law, but like most things, it's not always enforced. And so the counties that you can use the intruder affidavit in is DeKalb and Paulding, if any landlords have residents or squatters in those counties. Fulton, the sheriff simply won't do anything with it. So you're left with the eviction process, which takes a long time, and that's pretty much the only remedy right now. I have heard that the Apartment Association and hopefully the
National
NRH,
Rental Home Council.
yep,
Sure.
they're making a push because there's nothing in the Georgia landlord tenant statute that forces the sheriff to do lockouts during any certain period of time. Like in North Carolina, once you file a writ, they have a certain period of time that they have to schedule a lockout. There's nothing in Georgia that requires that. So that would be the next step, would be to push legislation. But outside of that, which we know how long that can take as well, and in those counties, whether or not that'll be successful, you know, with the voters, we don't know. But that's kind of the state of affairs there right now.
Often that delay is not necessarily the sheriffs not wanting to do their job. It's just
Correct.
the sheer volume
Yeah.
and the limited staff they have to get out and execute these. Is
Right.
that correct?
That's correct, but putting a time frame around it so that, you know, you don't have landlords that are sitting for a year without receiving rent. Worse, without a resident with, you know, a squatter or
Yeah.
I guess I wouldn't even call it a resident with a squatter. Some sort of legislative push to get a time frame put on a writ would be preferable.
Wow,
Yeah.
this
It's
is
an interesting
This
situation.
is
It's
like,
really just
like we
Georgia.
say, this is the life we chose.
Yeah,
right?
it's
This
really
is
just
it's
Georgia,
a
which is
challenging
crazy.
situation.
And it's really just Atlanta too.
Atlanta. I
'cause
don't
I've
know what's in the
practiced-
water down there, but you know, we're, you know, look, we're all empathetic to people. It's people that are doing this, but I mean, at the end of the day,
Yeah,
like
and some people
nothing's
are
for
being
free, right?
scammed,
So
yeah.
that's the challenge.
Yeah, it's a cost to the owner. It's a cost
Yeah,
to
they
the
truly
resident
think that
may have
they
been
are
scammed.
entitled to these properties for free. Like we personally have had people in these homes down there. You know, they're empty, and you know we're representing the owners. You know, doing work, and people have come as if it's their home with no lease and have pushed through the door. You know, it's crazy.
It's really
So,
unbelievable.
Yeah,
But
is.
it is truly concentrated in the Atlanta area. I've practiced in Savannah, Augusta, and in cities around it, or counties around it, I should say. And it's moving along like clockwork. You know, the process moves in the way it should.
Yeah.
And it's just not. And with residents and eviction and with squatters, it's just not. But hopefully, the intruder affidavit, if you've got squatters in DeKalb County, I'm told after it gets filed, it might be a couple weeks, which is
It's fair. Yeah.
much better
Awesome.
than the
All right.
alternative.
Cool. Well, I appreciate Stephanie,
Yeah,
our
sure. Thanks
subject
for
matter
having me.
expert, coming on. Brian,
Absolutely.
we just, this is something that we deal with. We do this business every day. We have over 4,000 homes in 16 markets, and like many of you out there that are landlords or property managers, you have these challenges as well. And we'd love for you to put in the show notes if you have any suggestions that you could share with us, or anything that you'd love for us to talk about as far as on the legal side, or anything for that matter. Feel free to subscribe if you feel like we've given some value here.
Don't forget the like button.
Hit the like button. All that stuff helps. And we look forward to having Stephanie and Brian on again soon. And everybody else out there, good luck with the squatter situation.